Okay, we are on Brachos Daf and Gimel Amid Aleph. 2 dots towards the top of the Amud. Ad Sof Ashmur Rishona. The opinion of Rabbi Elazar that the Gemara is now going to address told us that the end of the time to say Kriya Shema is the end of the first Mishmar. The Laila, the night, is broken up into different Mishmaros, different watch periods that Malachim would guard the night. And it's at the end of the first Mishmar, at the end of the first guard, that Rabbi Elazar says is the time that one has to say Kriya Shema by. So now continues the Gemara. My Kasavar Rabbi Elazar. What does Rabbi Elazar really hold? Kasavar Shalosh Mishmaros Have Laila. If Rabbi Elazar holds that there are 3 Mishmaros, that there are 3 watch periods during the night, so then Lema ad arba shal. So then Rabbi Elazar should have said that the time to say Kriya Shema is until 4 hours into the night. V'ikasavar arba mishmaros havelayla. And if he holds that there are 4 mishmaros in the night, that the night is broken up into 4 separate periods, Lema ad shalosh shal. So the end of the first period would be 3 hours into the night. So that is what Rabbi Elazar should have said. So Olam Kesavar Shalosh Mishmaros Havelayla. Why does Rabbi Elazar speak in this language of Ad Sof Shmur Rishona? So says the Gemara that really he holds that there are 3 Mishmaros, that the Laila is broken up into 3 separate parts of 4 hours. V'hak Mashmalan, the Ika Mishmaros Berakia, the Ika Mishmaros Be'ara. And this is to teach us that just as there are Mishmaros in Shamayim, there are also Mishmaros on earth, Titania, as the Brisa teaches us. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Elazar says, Shalosh Mishmaros Have Laila. There are 3 Mishmaros to the night. I'll call Mishmar Mishmar Yosheb HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Shoei Ka'ari. And on each and every one of these Mishmaros, God sits and he wails, he roars like a lion, he cries. Shena Amar, as the pasuk says, Hashem Emarom Yishag Mima'on Kocho Yitin Kolo, that God from the heavens cries, he wails, and from his lofty place he sends his voice, Sha'og Yishag al Nevehu, that he cries over the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. B'siman l'davar, Mishmar Rishon on Chamor no air, that the symbol is to know when each Mishmar ends on earth, is that the first Mishmar ends with the donkey wails, Shnia Klavim Tzoakim. The second, the dogs are barking, are howling. Shlishis Tinok Yonek Mishteimo V'Ishim Adavarasim Bahala. And at the end of the third Mishmar is when a baby is nursing from his mother and a husband and wife are speaking. Ma'ika Chashav Rabbi Elazar. Now, when Rabbi Elazar says Ad Sof Shmur Rishona, we have to ask, what is it that Rabbi Elazar holds? Itchilas Mishmaros Kachashiv, when he says that it's broken up into these 3 separate periods, and these simanim are during these 3 separate periods, the donkey wailing, the dog barking, and the woman speaking with her husband and feeding the baby. So when does that take place during the Mishmar? If it's during the beginning of the Mishmar, so then Tchilas Mishmar Rishon Siman Lamali. I don't need a siman to know when the beginning of the first Mishmar is. I know that that's Tzitz Chavim, that's when night begins. Or it's nighttime. Isof Mishmaros Kachashiv. If he is referring to the end of the Mishmaros, the end of the watch periods, Sof Mishmar Achron Alamali, why does he need to teach me the end of the last Mishmar? Simana, Lamali Simana, why do I need a sign? Yamanahu, it's daytime. Ela Chashiv Sof Mishmar Rishona V'tchilas Mishmar Achrona V'emtzayis Te'emtziisa. Rather, Rabbi Elazar was teaching me that these 3 Mishmaros happen at the end of the first, these 3 signs happen at the end of the first Mishmar, the middle of the middle Mishmar, and the beginning of the last Mishmar. Viba Isema, a second answer the Gemara gives, Kulu Sof Mishmaros Kachashiv, that in reality, Rabbi Elazar was referring to these signs are for the end of the Mishmaros. And we said before that you don't need a sign for the end of the last Mishmar because then it's going to be daytime. Why did Rabbi Elazar need to teach us that? In order so that you know when to say Kriya Shema, Leman de Ka'ani bebeis afal, for one who is inside of a dark room. They're inside of a room that does not have a window. Below Yoda's one Kriya Shema, and then therefore they're not going to know it's the time to say Kriya Shema in the morning. They're not going to know it's time that the end of the night is already finished. Therefore, if he hears the Amos Kivan the Isham Asperis Bala Vitina Kyonik Mishne Imo Lakum Velikri, since he hears the Isham Adveris Bala, the husband and wife speaking, he sees the baby eating. So then that is going to be an indicator that it's the time to say Kriya Shema. Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Mishmei de Rav Gimel Mishmar Savelai Lav Kol Mishmar Yoshev Hakadosh Baruch Hu V'Shoy Ka'ari. So as we said before, that for each of the Mishmaros, God, we learned from the pasuk Hashem Yom Yishag, the fact that the pasuk in Yirmiyah uses the language of Yeshag 3 times. We see that there are 3 times during the night that God is crying at each Mishmar. I'll call Mishmar Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'Shoy Ka'ari V'Amar, and he says, Oy lebanim sha'avanu seihim echrafti es beisi v'serafti es heichali ve'egalisim lebein umos ha'olam. That woe is to my children, says God, that because of their sins, I had to destroy the temple, the Sarafti Esechali, and I needed to destroy my courtyard in order to do service of God, and I needed to send them out to put them into a diaspora amongst the other nations. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yossi. The Brisa teaches that Rabbi Yossi said the following: Pam achas, the one time, Ha'isim halach b'derech. Rabbi Yossi says that he was one time traveling, v'nechnasi l'churva achas mechurvas Yerushalayim hispala. That I went to a dilapidated synagogue. I went to a synagogue that was part of the Churvas Yerushalayim, one of the shuls that was destroyed in Yerushalayim, hispala ba, in order to pray inside of it. Eliyahu Zachor Latov, Ba Eliyahu Zachor Latov, Eliyahu Hanavi came, V'shamar al HaPesach, and he waited for me by the door. Ad shesiyamti tefilasi, once I finished my davening. La'ach shesiyamti tefilasi, once I finished davening, Amar li, he said to me, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. He says, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, that peace to be upon you, Rebbe. Referred to Rabbi Yossi as Rebbe, we'll get back to that in a minute. V'amarti lo, and I said to him, Shalom Alecha, Rebbe u Mori. That peace be upon you, my Rebbe and my teacher. V'amar li, and he said to me, Bini, my child, why is it that you went into Chorva Zu, into this destroyed temple? Amarti lo, I said to him, Lispalo, to daven. Amar li, he said, you should have prayed on the way. You should not have gone into the Chorva. Amarti lo, I said to him, that I was nervous that there were going to be passerbyers, bandits, that it's dangerous to stop on the road. V'amar li, he said to me, you should have davened an abridged tefillah. We'll get back to what this is referring to in a moment as well. You should have davened a shortened tefillah. We're at the second wide line. But at this moment, I learned 3 things from Eliyahu Hanavi, says Rabbi Yossi. I learned that One is not supposed to go into a chuva, into a destroyed synagogue. That when one prays, they pray on the way. But I also learned that one who prays while they're traveling, they should daven a tefillah ktsara, a shortened tefillah. Okay, let's pause there for a moment and catch up. So first, the first thing we have to look into over here is when Rabbi Yossi and Eliyahu Hanavi, they see each other. So what happens? So Rabbi Yossi, Eliyahu Hanavi goes over to Rabbi Yossi and he says, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi. And then what does Rabbi Yossi respond? He says, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Umari. So the Rambam paskins in Parak Hey of Hilchos Talmud Torah, Halacha Hey, which is the halacha, which is the set of halachos in Parak Hey. The Rambam discusses the halachos pertaining to a Rebbe Mufak, the way that a Talmud is supposed to treat their Rebbe Mufak. And he writes over there, Shochel lefanav v'amar lo, that when you see your Rebbe, you're supposed to bow before him, and you're supposed to say, B'yira v'kavod. You're supposed to say with an awe and with a reverence and an honor, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. Peace be upon you, Rebbe. V'im natan lo, Rabo Shalom. And if your Rebbe says to you, Shalom Aleichem, what you're supposed to respond with, Yachzer lo, says the Rambam, you respond and you say, Shalom Aleichem, Rebbe Umori. So, the question that has to be asked on this Rambam is, before we get to understanding our Gemara, just to understand the Rambam, why did the Rambam switch the type of response that he seems to say that when you are initiating the greeting, you say Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. It's both to a Rebbe Molech, it's the same person, but you say when you're greeting him Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. That's where you're supposed to give kavod harav. But when you're responding, you say Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Umori. What's the split? What's the change all about? So you see from our Gemara, says Rav Elyashiv, a raya for the Rambam, because when Eliyahu Hanavi came to Rabbi Yossi, he said Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, and then Rabbi Yossi responded and he said Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Umori. What do you see here? That you see that Rabbi Yossi, when he responded, he didn't just say Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, he said Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Umori. Now, why is it that Eliyahu Hanavi referred to Rabbi Yossi as Rebbe? This is only by Rav Movak. So Rav Elyashiv says we get this from the Ramah. I'm sorry, Shulchan Aruch in Yoredei Siman Reish Mem Dalet Siv Yud tells us that the Rav Ha'ir, the Moreh Asra, is by definition the Rab HaMuvak. The Gadol Ador also has the same definition of Rab HaMuvak, even if the definition of Rab HaMuvak, Rav Shechter likes to point out very often from the Shach, the definition of Rab HaMuvak is that you learned most of your Torah knowledge and wisdom from that particular person. However, the Gadol Ador, who's mashpi on the entire generation, also carries that type of a qualification, that because they're mashpi on the entire generation, so then they also would have the same din as a Rebbe Mufak. Rabbi Yossi, even for Eliyahu Hanavi, had the din of a Rebbe Mufak because he was the Gadol Ador. So therefore, Eliyahu Hanavi, when he saw him, said Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, like what the Rambam says, and Rabbi Yossi responded to Eliyahu Hanavi, who of course would be considered also like a Gadol Ador, definitely like a Gadol Ador. He responded and he said Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Umori. Rav Elyashiv also points out that there's a Gemara later on Daf Chav Zayin that says that if someone says, basic just like a Shalom Aleichem to their Rebbe, just a basic, hey, what's up, to their Rebbe. So the Gemara says, Gorim l'shchina shetistalek miYisrael, that this causes the Shechina, the omnipresent, to leave Bnei Yisrael. And Rashi and Tosafos there explain that it's because you spoke to them the way that the way you would speak to a regular person. that is totally inappropriate. And that's exactly what we learned from our Gemara, and Rav Elyashiv says is the source for the Rambam. The next thing we have to point out is Eliyahu Navi. One of the things that Rabbi Yossi learned from Eliyahu Navi is that if you are traveling, you're supposed to say a tefillah ktsara. You're supposed to say a shortened tefillah. What's the definition of a tefillah ktsara? So Rashi tells us, if you take a look at Rashi, tefillah ktsara, Rashi tells us, havinenu. Dibra masal tefillah ktsara. Rashi says havinenu. The Gemara on Daf Chaf Tes is going to explain what is Havinenu. But basically, Havinenu was instituted for someone who cannot concentrate on the Shemona Esrei. So instead of a full 18 brachos or 19 brachos, instead they abridged the Shemona Esrei into the first 3 brachos, Avos Gevura and Kadosh and Kedusha, and the last 3 brachos of the last 3 brachos of Avoda, Hoda, and Shalom. So the first 3 brachos and the last 3 brachos are exactly the same. Then there's the middle 3 brachos that they abridge and condensed. The middle brachos, the middle 13 brachos that they condensed all into one bracha, taking the theme from each bracha and applying it to this one bracha called Havinenu. It's an interesting thing, by the way, that we don't say Havinenu today. Why not? So the Bir Halacha says that Havinenu is only instituted for someone who can't concentrate on their Shemona Esrei. So says the Bir Halacha, then that's why we don't say Havinenu today. Why? Because we can't concentrate on our Shemona Esrei anyway. We're not going to be able to concentrate on 7 brachos, which is why, the Gemara says that if someone does not have kavanah during Avos, they have to repeat Shemona Esrei. So why don't we do it anymore? Because Tosfos says you're going to mess up the second time also. Since we don't have true kavanah anyway, so says the Bir Halacha, if you're not going to have true kavanah anyway, so then why skip out on all the brachos that you could be saying, and hopefully you have kavanah somewhere along the way, as opposed to Havinenu, which likelihood is that you're going to have the same level of kavanah during Havinenu that you will during the regular Shemona Esrei. But we have to define over here, what is tefillah ktsara? Rashi told us Havinenu. Tosfos has a havamina that's actually referring to a different bracha. The Gemara discusses on Daf Lamed, what is the difference between Havinenu and Tefillah Ktsara? Says Tosfos, what do you see over there? There's a difference between Havinenu and what somehow is being referred to as Tefillah Ktsara. And if you look at the lashon of what Tefillah Ktsara is, so over there the Gemara has that Tefillah Ktsara on Daf Chaf Tes on the base is a bracha for really like parnasa. You're kind of like asking Abakasha, you're asking Hashem to help you with parnasa. And it's like tefillah ktsara. So the Rambam seems to assume that what we are referring to over here is the tefillah ktsara that's referred to on Daf Chaf Tes on the base, not like Havinenu. Havinenu is its own title, not tefillah ktsara. Tefillah ktsara is something else. It's about parnasa. So the question is that if tefillah ktsara is only recited during a moment where you are like a holech drachim, you're on your way and it's a dangerous situation, and if you were to stop and have a full Shemona Esrei at that moment, then it's could be potentially life-threatening. So then why is it then that if you're in such a dangerous place, that you should stop and start davening for parnasa? You would think that it would be better to daven like we would do. We do a tefillas haderech, right? Which is Hashem to protect us while we're traveling, which I assume the person did anyway. So why are you davening for parnasa with this tefillah ktsara? It seems very strange. So according to the Rambam, according to Rashi, that's not what's happening. You're saying Havinenu, but according to the Rambam, and at least one opinion in Tosfos, is that you're davening for parnasa. So I once asked Rav Shechter this. And Rav Shechter told me, he said that, well, what gave the person the right to put themselves into a makom sakana? What gave the person the right to be on the road at that moment? So says the Nod B'Yehuda that there's a special dispensation from the Torah where the Torah says v'chai b'hem, that you have to live by the Torah. If you don't have parnasa, you're not going to be able to follow the Torah. You're not going to be able to keep the mitzvahs. You're not going to be able to have a life. So therefore, it says in the Yehuda, it would come out that one is allowed to put themselves into a safek sakana, into a potential life-threatening situation for parnasa purposes. Therefore, if I'm going to be on the road and I'm putting my life on the line by doing so in order to raise money, to get money for my family, to put food on the table, so then what is the thing I should be praying for then? I should be praying for parnasa, because Memela, if Hashem answers my tefillah for parnasa, he's also going to be protecting me. Good. The last thing I want to discuss over here before we move on is it's very strange that I'm just going to ask the kasha, and we'll come back to it at some other place. It's a theme that comes up quite often in Shas, which is why are we learning halacha over here from Eliyahu Hanavi? I thought that we have a general principle. It's the Gemara in Eruvin on Daf Mem Gimel Beis, lo b'shamayim hi, that the Torah was not given to angels. The Torah was given to people. The Torah is not for the heavens, it's for the earth. And therefore, halacha is not defined by spiritual beings. Halacha is defined by people, not by spiritual beings. Okay, I just want to point out the kasha. Let us continue. We are now about 3 lines down from where the lines get wide towards the end of the line. Just before we move on, something else, an amazing shtickle Torah from Rav Elyashiv. It's a very, very quick one I want to point out, which is that Rav Elyashiv points out that we know Eliyahu Hanavi, just about Eliyahu Hanavi, a little bit of a tangent. Eliyahu Hanavi comes to every single bris milah. Now, if we're going to assume that Eliyahu Hanavi follows halacha, which is why he's teaching us halacha, and that's actually one of the answers to the question as to why it is that we can learn halacha from Eliyahu Hanavi, because we assume that Eliyahu Hanavi, since he functions in this world, he actually keeps halacha. So if Eliyahu Hanavi comes to every single bris milah, what happens if a bris milah falls out on Shabbos? And let's say earlier that day, Eliyahu Hanavi was in a bris milah in New Jersey, and then he has to come out to California for another bris milah later in the day. So he's going to be going outside of the tchum, the violation of Shabbos. So how's that okay? So Rav Elyashiv points out that the Mishnah in the beginning of the 19th parak of Shabbos, the parak of Rabbi Lezer de Mila, that discusses what it is that one can do in order to do a bris milah on Shabbos week. So the Mishnah says that according to Rabbi Akiva, you're not allowed to do machshirei milah. You're not allowed to do preparations for the bris milah. That's Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Rabbi Akiva says, though, that you are not allowed to do preparations. Only Rabbi Lezer says you're allowed to do preparations. Rabbi Akiva says you cannot do preparations for the bris. For example, you can't sharpen the knife, you can't heat up the water to bathe the baby, things like that. What can you do? Anything that you could not have done the day before. For example, the bris milah itself. So says Rav Elyashiv, Eliyahu Hanavi needed to be in New Jersey for a bris milah. Therefore, it's like machshirei milah, since we can't do the bris milah without him. Therefore, it's like machshirei milah, that you were not able to do the day before. So beautiful charifos from Rav Elyashiv. Okay, let's continue. The conversation continues over here between Rabbi Yossi and Eliyahu Hanavi. It continues as follows. He says to me, Bini, my son, ma kol shamas b'chor vazu. What voice did you hear inside of this destroyed shul? V'amarti lo, I said to him, Shamati baskol sheminhames kiyona. I heard a baskol, I heard a heavenly voice that was crying, that was wailing like a dove. The Omeris, and it was saying, Oy libonim shavin osem echrafti as basically srafti as oli reglisam rabbeinu l'smol ha'olam. That woe is to my children that because of their grave sins. It's an important Gemara for us to learn a day before Asar B'Teves, that because of their sins, I had to destroy the temple, and I had to burn the Heichal, and I had to send them into a diaspora. Va'amar li, and said Eliyahu Navi to me, Chayecha, by your life, Echai Roshcha, and by the life, and by your head, Lo Shazu Bilvad. Not only at this moment does Hashem cry over this, Omeres Kach Ela B'chol Yom V'Yom Shalosh Ba'amim Omeres Kach. Rather, every single day, 3 times a day, God is crying like this. And not only that, Ela B'Shashi Yisrael Nechnasim Lebati Knessos Lebati Medrashos. But not only does God cry then, but God even cries when we go to shul and we go to the Beis HaMedrash Va'onin, and we respond, Yeh Shmei Hagadol Mevarach, that we say that God's name should be great, and we answer, Amen Yeh Shmei Haba Mevarach Li'olam Me'al Maya. So continues the Gemara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Menanei Rosho, he shakes his head, Va'omer Ashrei HaMelech, how fortunate is the king, that they give him praises in his house. It's unfortunate then that I had to send my children away from my table. So Rav Elyashiv points out in his Divrei Agada, his Sefer on Chumash, that the change in tone over here is very different in the wailing that God does when we pray inside of a churva versus the wailing that God does when we pray inside of a shul or a Beis HaMedrash. And says Rav Elyashiv, the reason being is that the reason why God has a much more positive tone and almost like a so chaval then, that if they are going to give me praises, I wish the praise was done inside of the Beis HaMikdash. The reason why he gives such a praise that's laced with positivity, that's such a cry laced with positivity, is because we know that our shuls, our Batei Midrashos, Baknesios, are a mikdash me'at. They are miniature Beis HaMikdash, what the Gemara tells us. And therefore, when they are used properly, that is still making God's name great. That is Yehei Shmei Rabbi Mevarach Le'olam Me'al. However, when we go inside of a churva, what are we basically saying? I just needed a place to do my mitzvah. You're removing God from the equation. You might have done the orthodox thing, that you prayed, but were you praying to God? How much did you internalize the fact that who you are praying to is the person who destroyed this churva because of the fact that we have avonos? That's why when you're inside of a churva, God's wailing is very, very, very negative, as opposed to inside of a shul where it's both positive and negative. It's bittersweet in the sense that if only we were really work on ourselves in order to bring back those types of praises where we could say, again, Yehei Shmei Rabbi Levarach inside of the Beis HaMikdash. Continues the Gemara Tana Rabbana. The Gemara teaches the following: because there are 3 reasons one is not allowed to go inside of a churva. Because we're concerned about promiscuity, you're going to meet a zona there. Because we're concerned that it is not safe, it's going to collapse on you. And for the shaden that exist, that are more heavily populated inside of the churva. So now the Gemara wonders, just teach me one of the 3. Teach me how I go into the churva because of chashad, because we're concerned about promiscuity. But typically, mishum mapolis, and I can learn mapolis from there. I don't need to teach all 3. Bechadasi, no. The reason why is because that it's a sturdy chorva. In the case of a sturdy chorva, you still need the reason of mipnei chashad. Typically, mishum mazikin. Also, we still have the reason of mazikin, though, that there are shadim around. Betray. So there are two people there. If there are two people, so then the shadim have a lot less power against two. Betray, because then there's no more potential promiscuity. Betray u pritzi. No, we're talking about people that are promiscuous people. Mepnei hamapolis, typically mishum chashad, umazikin, betray v'kshiri. So now says the Gemara that we still don't need to teach all three, just teach the promiscuity and the fact that there are mazikin, there are shadim there. So says the Gemara, no, we're talking about a case where two people go into the churva, and they're both kosher people, that we would not be concerned that they're going to do promiscuous behavior there. Mipnei mazikin v'typically mishum mipnei chashad umapolas. So just teach chashad and mapolas, that it could potentially collapse and promiscuity. So b'churva chadati ubetray v'kshiri. No, we're talking about where it's a sturdy churva and that there are two ksherim. Betray, if there are two people mazikin non-relaika, then you also don't have a concern about mazikin. B'mazikin chashinan. No, b'makomon chashinan. We're concerned that maybe this is a churva that is heavily populated by mazikin, which will still beat out two people. No, what we're talking about is where there was only one person and it was a churva that is new. We're not concerned it's going to fall. The kai b'dabra. But we're talking about one that is inside of the wilderness. The hasad mishum chashad leika, you don't have to worry about chashad because the ha'isha b'dabra lo yishchicha u'mishum mazikin ika. You still have the concern about mazikin, however, you don't have the concern about promiscuous behavior because women are usually not found out in the wilderness. Okay, back to our discussion about the mishmaros. Continues the Gemara, Tana Rabbanon, Arba mishmaros havilayim. There are 4 mishmaros to the night. Divrei Rebbe. That's what Rebbe said. Reb Nassan says, however, Omer Shalosh, there are 3 mishmaros. Okay, now we see that there are 2 opinions. How many mishmaros are there? Are there 4 mishmaros? And then there are 4 segments of 3 hours split into the 12 hours of the night. 4 segments of 3 hours, or is it 3 segments of 4 hours that are 3 mishmaros? My time is Rav Nassan. What's the source of Nassan that there are 3 mishmaros? Techsiv, as the pasuk says, we have on Gidon umea ish asher itel b'ktzeh hamachaneh rosh hashmaros hatichona. That Gidon came with 100 men at the end of the camp, at the beginning of the middle ashmares. Tana ein tichona ela sheish lefaneh harel. So if there's a middle one, it means that we're talking about odd numbers over here. Rabbi, my tichonos. Now, what was Rabbi going to explain tichona as? Achas mina tichona shebe tichonos. No, one of the middle 2 is what the pasuk's referring to. Tana ein tichona ela sheish lefaneh harel. Rabbi, my tichona achas mina tichona shebe tichonos. Rabbi Nassan. Now, what about Rabbi Nassan? Niksif tichona shebe tichonos. How's he going to respond to Rabbi to defend himself? He's going to say that it doesn't say tichona shebe tichonos. It doesn't say one of the middle ones. What does it say? It says tichona ksiv. It says the middle one, which sounds like it's talking about singular. My time with the Rebbe. Okay, now what would be the textual proof for Rebbe that there are 4 mishmaros in the night? Amr Reb Zeka, Amr Reb Ami, Amr Reb Yishua ben Levi. Kasav Echad Omer. One pasuk says the following: Chatzos Laila Akom Lahodos Lacha Mishpatei Tzidkecha. That David HaMelech would wake up at Chatzos, at midnight, in order to give Shabbat Havodah to God. Because of Echad Omer, Kidmu Enai Ashmoros. And another pasuk says that David HaMelech would wake up at the beginning of the night. HaKetzad, how's that possible? Arba Mishmaros, Havilayla. Oh, what do you see? That there are 4 Mishmaros, because otherwise, how do you have a midnight and that he got up at the beginning of the night? The Gemara tells us from these 2 psukim that David got up in the middle of the night. He also got up when there were still mishmaros left. What does that mean? If there are still mishmaros, plural, left in the night, that means at midnight there were still 2 more left. So that means that there are 4 mishmaros. Okay, it's that mishmaros havelayla. Rav Nasan Savra La Rabbi Yeshua. Rav Nasan says, no problem. There's still 3 mishmaros. The time Rabbi Yeshua, Omer Rabbi Yeshua says, Shalos, that עד שלוש שכן דרך המלאכים לעמוד בשלוש. Rabbi Yeshua says that until 3 hours, that is the time where kings sleep. Amod b'shalosh sha'os, shish delayla, v'tartu b'yamam. They sleep for a very long time. They get a full 8 hours. They sleep into the day. That is shtei mishmaros, and that is the equivalent of 2 mishmaros. That's how long they slept. Meaning, if they slept 8 hours total, that means that 2 divided by 8 is 4 apiece. And that equals to 2 mishmaros, because each mishmar is a third of the night, meaning 4 hours. With Ashi Amar Mishmara Upaganami Mishmaros Karulei, with Ashi use a different answer to defend with Nasan that the middle of the middle Mishmar is also called Chatzos. That also is called Mishmaros. Continues the Gemara. The Omer Rabbi Zreika, Omer Rabbi Ami, Omer Rabbi Shua Ben Levi. Ein Omer B'fnei Hameis El Dvar Shalmeis. That one is only allowed to say in front of the mace that which has to do with the mace. And it says the tzlach, it says the Noda B'Yehuda, that that's because you have to stay focused on accomplishing your mitzvah of kavod hameis, of doing what needs to be done for the mace. Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, Lo Omran Ela B'divrei Torah. This one refers to Torah. You're not allowed to talk Torah in front of the mace. However, there's nothing wrong with talking just general news, politics, things like that are not Torah related. However, there's another interpretation on the Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, a different version of the Gemara that Lo Omran, that this halacha only applies Ela Afilu B'divrei Torah. The Kosh came to the Da'ama. You can't waste your time talking about random things in front of a mace. You have to take care of the mace. Now, this applies. The post can tell us that, make a point of telling us this applies regardless of whether or not you're one of the avelim. That even if you don't have an obligation to take care of the mace, you still have to abide by this halacha. And it's because of kavod hameis. The Tosfos over here, if you take a look at the top, Tosfos on Gimel and the Beis, even Maskell Ein Omer Rifnei Hameis Al Dvar Shalmeis. He says Upasal Grov Alfas, that the Rif Paskin Mishum Rav Hai Gaon Dafka Divrei Torah about Dvarim Da'alma Leislam Ba, that we paskin like the first opinion in the Gemara that the Lishna Kama says that the prohibition is only talking Divrei Torah in front of the mace, and that is only the Dafka Ba'arba Amos Shalom, only within Arba Amos. By the way, the Mordechai, also one of the Rishonim, a commentary on the Rif, points out that he believes the halacha is that if you're in the same room as the mace, if you're in the same oil as the mace, then the entire place has a din Dalet Amos, and you wouldn't be able to talk like that. So let's say if someone is doing Shnira on a mace, so then if they are anywhere in the same room, you wouldn't be able to talk divrei Torah. However, it's clearly not the way that Tosfos paskins, and we paskin like Tosfos. Of course, this only applies to speaking in Torah, not thinking in Torah, and of course, this does not apply to let's say. Speaking, saying Tehillim, or for example, at a Levaya, we give Hespedim, and during Hespedim we say a lot of the Torah, so there's Rabbi Yasher, that's of course filter, because that's all kavod hames. He does point out, though, which is I think a common error, that Rabbi Yasher at least paskins that the recitation of Mishnayos would be problematic. Even though there's an old minhag from the Arizal to say Mishnayos in the memory of a nifter, because Mishnah and Neshama have the same Rashi Tevos, have the same letters. Excuse me. However, Rabbi Yasher says that would be a violation of this halacha, this Gemara. If you are going to speak, you're going to learn Mishnayos in front of a mace. Okay. Let's continue the Gemara. V'David b'paga d'leila have kai me'urta have kai. Hold on one second. David HaMelech woke up at midnight. I thought he woke up in the beginning of the night, says the Gemara. The pasuk says, Kidanti b'neshef v'ashva. That the pasuk says that David HaMelech woke up in order to daven to Hashem. The pasuk in Tehillim says that David HaMelech would wake up in the night, b'neshef, in order to pray. How do we know that neshef means at night? Because the pasuk says b'neshef va'erev yom b'isham layla v'afilu. What do you see? That the pasuk is equating neshef and erev and night. Amar Reb Oshia, Amar Rabbi Acha. So now the question is, which one did he wake up during? Did he wake up during Chatzos, or did he wake up in the beginning of the night? Amar Rabbi Acha, Hachi Ka'amar, Ma'olam lo avid alai Chatzos laila shena. The first answer of the Gemara is that David HaMelech never let Chatzos go by while he was still sleeping. He was always up before Chatzos. Rabbi Zera Amar, Rabbi Zera says, Ad Chatzos laila having this nam name Chatzos. That until Chatzos he slept like a horse. However, for the rest of the night, Miskaber Ta'ari, he was up like a lion. Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi says, Ad Chatzos laila hayaozik b'divrei Torah. Until Chatzos he was learning, and then after Chatzos he was davening. According to Rav Ashi, I have no clue when David HaMelech slept. The Neshef Urtahu, Hi Neshef Tzafarhu. Hold on, this is all based on our assumption that Neshef means night, which we seem to have proved it from a pasuk that equates Neshef and Laila. However, now the Gemara wants to assume that Neshef actually means morning. This is Vayikrim David Mahaneshef Va'ad Ha'erev. David HaMelech fought Amalek from Neshef until night, the Machar the next day. What does that mean? Neshef sounds like over here, morning till night. Ma'alav mitzafa va'alela. So doesn't that mean that it was from morning till night? Lo me'urta va'alela. No, it meant from night to night. Ihachi, if that's the case. So then, lichtov mehaneshef, now Neshef va'ahaneshef. No, then it should have said from Neshef until Neshef. Or ma'arev ha'erev. Why didn't it say from night till night? Ella Amar Rava Trey Neshife have. There are two types of Neshef. There's Neshef Leila, the Asi Yamama. There's the Neshef of the night, which it's when the night ends and then day comes, and then there's Neshef Yamama when the day ends, the Asi Laila, and then night comes. The David Mi have a Yada Palaga Leila. Now, how did David HaMelech know when it was nighttime? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even know when nighttime was. And what's the big deal that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know when nighttime was? So that's so the Mefarshim point out, because Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest chacham, even a greater chacham than Shlomo HaMelech. And if that's the case, if Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't have known when Chatzos is, then how is it possible that David HaMelech knew when Chatzos was in the middle of the night? It's not like they had clocks. The David didn't have a yada Haggadah. How is it possible that David HaMelech knew when Chatzos was? In Mahashla Moshe Rabbeinu don't have a yada. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't even know when Chatzos was. The Chesiv, as the pasuk says, Ka Chatzos Laila, that God is going to come and kill the firstborn in Egypt at around midnight. Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu said at around midnight? He should have just said at midnight. Ani Yotze B'toch Mitzrayim, that God is going to go out at around midnight. My kachatzos. Why did he say kachatzos? If you want to say that God said at around midnight, God knows when midnight is. So God didn't need to say that. Rather, God was saying to him, God said at exactly midnight. And then Moshe said, he said at around midnight because he does not know when Chatzos is, because he was unsure when the exact moment of midnight occurs. The David had a yada, and David knew. So then it answers the Gemara, David had a sign to know when Chatzos was. Amar Rav Bar Bizna, Amar Rav Shimon Hasida, Kinor Haya Kali Lamala Mivitaso. That the way that David knew when exactly midnight was is because he had a harp sitting above his bed. Shal David, the northern wind would come at exactly midnight and would play the harp. And it would wake him. It would be playing from on top of him. At that moment, he woke up and he right away jumped up to go learn Torah until morning came. Then in the morning, the rest of the schedule went like this: that the Chachamim would come before David HaMelech, and they said to him, Adonenu HaMelech, King, our master. The Jewish people need sustenance. So then you guys should take care of each other. The rich should take care of the poor. And therefore, you share your resources, and you shouldn't have an issue. They said back to him, the hunger is so great, it's like a lion. A little bit of flour is not going to satisfy the hunger of a lion. And if you take a shovel and you dig from a pre-existing pit, and then you just put that dirt right back into the pit, the pit's still empty. That you guys should go. I'm giving you reshus to have a milchama, to go fight for your rights, and to fight through the oppressing nation in order so that you could have the bounty from them. Yotzin ba'Achitofel, so they go to Achitofel, who was the main advisor of David HaMelech. They got Eitzah from him, they got advice from him, the Nimlachu Sanhedrin, and then they went to go get permission from the Sanhedrin. It's a question whether or not they needed to get permission from the Sanhedrin, or the Sanhedrin was just supposed to daven for them. Rashi says on Chumash that the Sanhedrin was supposed to daven from them. Over here, Rashi says, Rashi right over here, Rashi says, Kadeshi Yispalu Alehem, in order so that they could pray for them. But Rashi also adds in V'not Lahem Rishus, that they also received Rishus, meaning that they had the paskin that you're allowed to go to a Melchames Rishus. The Sholem B'Urim B'Tumim, and they asked the Urim B'Tumim inside of the Choshen. Amar of Yosef, Ma'ikra. How do we learn this from the pasuk? V'achrei Achitofel. After they went to Achitofel, it says in the pasuk, because first they went to Achitofel in order to get the Eitzah. Baneu ben Yoyada. Then they went to Ben Yoyada, who was Baneu ben Yoyada. He was the Rosh HaSanhedrin. The Avyasar, the Tzar Tzava, and then they went to Abiatar, who was the Kohen Gadol, in order to ask the Urim B'Tumim, the Tzar Tzava, Melech Yoav, and then they gathered the army from Yoav, who was the general. So Achitophel's a Yoetz. Achitophel's the one that gave the advice. V'chein hu omer, and so says the pasuk, v'atzas achitofel asher ya'atz b'yamim ahim, kasher yish'al b'devar ha'elohim, that they would go and get their advice from Achitofel. The pasuk tells us, in Shmuel Beis, Beneo ben Yoyada zeh Sanhedrin, that they went to Beneo ben Yoyada because he was the Av Beis Din, the Abiyatar Elu Urim Betumim. They went to Abiyatar to ask the Urim Betumim because he was the Kohen Gadol, V'chein hu Omer. And it also says in the pasuk, Ubeneu ben Yoyada, Crazy Placey, that Ben Yoyada was the one who asked the Crazy Placey, which is another name for the Urim Betumim. Balama Nikra Shemam Crazy Placey. Why are the Urim Betumim referred to as Crazy Placey? So says the Gemara, Crazy Shekorsim Debrahim, that they cut through the matter when you ask the Urim Betumim, and Placey She Muflaim B'Divrahim, that the things that come out of the Urim Tumim are like wonderments. They're unbelievable, open miracles. Then they went to Yoav to go out in war. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Ada, Amri La Rav Yitzchak Braid Rav Edi. Either this is Rav Yitzchak, the son of Ada, or the son of Rav Edi. Mikra, what is from where do we know in the Psukim that David HaMelech had this harp that woke him up in the middle of the night, that then he would learn Torah until the morning, when he would have to deal with the Tzarkei Amcha, with having to be there to help the people. So the pasuk says, "Ora kfodi, ora hanevel v'kinor, aira shachar." The pasuk says that the harp would wake up the shachar, would wake up for the morning. We see from there that it was the harp that woke him up. Okay, good. We'll stop here. Pick up with Daf Daled tomorrow.